Now, I'd like to hand it off to our first presenter, Michael Toscano, to begin. Michael.
Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate the introduction. I just have a few slides to help introduce Converged Technology Group, also known as CTG. CTG we're a leading systems integrator who specializes in the co-managed advanced technology solutions. Let me skip down a slide here. Bear with me 1 second. Alrighty. So as I mentioned, we're a leading provider of co-managed advanced technology solutions who serve the mid-market commercial sector here in New York. Now, while CTG is firmly rooted in the New York metro area, and we do primarily serve the Northeast, we have provided a fair share of deployments across the contiguous U.S. as well as internationally. We do provide co-managed advanced technology solutions, but to many of our clients, we also provide differential customized solutions as well. And while CTG's origins were initially centered around Cisco's advanced technology solutions, in fact, two of our principal owners.
Right on the source, there is e-newsletter, there's Global Impact.
Okay, I think that went away. So as I was saying that we do provide advanced technology solutions. In fact, two of our principals still own their CCIEs. And as you can see on the slide, the three areas that we go to market with are network infrastructure, unified communications, and virtual data centers. Some of the solutions that we provide: traditional LAN switching and WAN routing across the network, wireless, internal guest voice over wireless LANs. On the security side, you can see the products and solutions that we support, and some of the services. Not only do we do LAN WAN assessments, but we'll also do risk mitigation testing, or risk penetration testing, as well as compliance testing. And on top of that, we'll do the design around it, we'll do the implementation, which are project services, and then network ongoing support, which is what we call CTG Assist, I think, which was actually renamed Assist 360. And on to unified communications. So we are a big partner with Cisco regarding advanced UC, and we provide solutions around voice communications, messaging, also inclusive of other ecosystem partners such as Microsoft as well. We do video, which is legacy Cisco, but also legacy Tamberg, all the collaboration suites of products, which include Presence, Mobility, and Contact Center. And some of the things that we provide on the UC side are telecom, expense audit, voice network readiness assessments, but we also do financial modeling, meaning that we'll make sure that any system that's being recommended meets your business technology and financial needs. And again, on the back end, we certainly provide second-day support, which again is CTG Assist or Assist 360. And last, certainly but not least, is our virtualized data center practice, which I think BYOD falls under. But we do unified storage, backup and recovery, server virtualization, desktop virtualization, backup and recovery. And you can see that we provide certain types of assessment that help make sure that we recommend the right products and solutions for you and your organization. And you can see some of the implementation services that we also provide, which are physical to virtual desktops, and certainly high availability data center implementations. And again, last but not least, is certainly important to all our customers, which is CTG Assist as our ongoing support. And again, I mentioned CTG Assist. One thing that I think has been increasingly become important to our customer base is being able to supply simplified support to help increase their uptime. It's proactive and reactive service. It provides real-time alerts, provides enhanced network visibility. It's 24/7, 365. It can be SLA-based, meaning it could be 15-minute call-out, a 1-hour callback session. It could be unlimited help desk support. We do vendor management of all the ecosystem partners that are inclusive of any solution that we provide, and obviously we provide service delivery management on the back end as well. And this is just a quick snapshot of some of the partners that we work with. Obviously Cisco Systems, which is one of our premier partners, Citrix around VDI, and some of the other ecosystem partners such as EMC and NetApp on the back end as well. So why Converged Technology Group? We have exceptional customer satisfaction rating. In fact, we were named Cisco's East Customer Satisfaction Excellence Partner of the Year. We maintain a rating of approximately 4.9 out of 5. We have a gold star for customer sat with Cisco. We are an advanced UC partner, advanced data center partner, and we're an ISC partner. We have best-in-class advanced technology attach rate, which speaks to the advanced technologies that we supply on a national basis. I put in here 20 years Cisco networking and UC experience, but I would say that's close to 100 years. Based on the experienced engineers and leadership that we provide within this organization, I would say it's far in excess of 20 years. We provide complete lifecycle services, which include design, implementation, operational support, as well as optimization services as well. And the last thing that I want to mention here are our people. You know, one of the reasons why I list our Cisco certifications is probably because they're the most recognizable in the industry. So we have everything from CCIE on down. We certainly have the same level of certifications with some of the other ecosystem partners that we work with, namely Citrix, EMC, NetApp, et cetera. We point out that we continually provide PDPs to our organization, and what that does is it really tracks the performance of our internal employees. It creates great customer satisfaction internally, and I think it certainly adds to the customer satisfaction excellence that we provide on a daily basis to our customers. Scott, I think that's all I have right now, and I will pass it over to you.
Great, Mike. Thank you. All right. Awesome. So I just wanted to thank everybody for joining today. I think you know, we're lucky to have Drew and Derek from Citrix on this call. They have a lot of great content for you folks around BYOD. I'm just going to go through a few slides. I wanted to kind of tie everything together, why we are all here today from a BYOD perspective. Why is BYOD top of mind more so now than ever? And then what I'll do is I'm going to roll it over to Drew, who's from Cisco. We'll go through the Cisco solutions, and then from Drew we'll move on to Citrix and really what Citrix play is within the BYOD architecture. So I'm not a marketing guy, but I like to throw up this marketing slide just to give everybody an idea of some of the data that's being pulled. This is actually a Forrester report, and the majority, I would say, the majority of the folks or employees out there these days, as we all know, have more. I would say more than 2 devices. You know, they're saying 3/4 of the user base out there has multiple devices, but I would say at a minimum we have 2 more, right? For myself, I actually have 3 or more, but the majority probably has a cell phone or some sort of laptop. Now they're saying that by 2015, we're going to be seeing, you know, around 15 billion of these network mobile devices, so it's just going to continue to grow. Also, what I found to be interesting is more than half of the current information workers today actually work remotely, and you know, providing for those remote access into the environment, providing that anywhere, anytime type of environment where they're able to access the applications they need on the device with device flexibility really plays into BYOD. And really, what we're all probably on this, you know, we're on this webinar today for is, you know, how do we go facilitate that? How do we facilitate it securely? How do we put controls in place, manage policies, manage access, and all that good stuff? And really today, the majority of IT professionals or IT leaders are struggling with that, and that's really why BYOD is coming top of mind. And, you know, how do we approach this new era of mobile access with, you know, with end users, whether they bring their own device or devices that are provided through the organization. So within this slide, it's really what are IT leaders, what's driving IT leaders today to kind of look at BYOD. And there's a handful in here that I don't necessarily think are the motivators or the primary motivators of BYOD. I'm going to touch on the ones that we're seeing from our customers, and then I'll touch on the ones that I guess you could give or take. So the majority of us, we have customers. So we'll have, say, contractors, consultants that we may be working with, partners that we may be working with that may need to have access into your environments, right? And you want to be able to do that securely. So that's one motivator. Improving customer service is a big one. So depending on what type of business you're in, how do we improve customer service? Well, the reality is providing access to data for our employees, ease of access of that data, in turn is obviously going to improve that customer service. So meaning that, the faster I can gain access to that data, the faster I can get back to those customers, in turn increasing productivity and in turn increasing customer service. Just staff needs to, have access to data at their fingertips, the ability to collaborate, so having collaboration capabilities across multiple device platforms, and at the same time having all these different modalities and wanting to be able to monitor, manage, and enable those users to access that data in a secure manner. Now, some of the other drivers are, I want to stay ahead of my competition. Okay, I think that's industry dependent, and that could potentially be a driver. And, my users are demanding BYOD. That holds some weight, but I think the other business cases are much more relevant than those two. And then we're seeing the other business cases more as we go in and speak with our customers around BYOD and, their business. So this is really just kind of, it's more of a roadmap, or, where we've seen, BYOD solutions. So limited access into an environment. I think that this has been around for some time. As we came into our customer environments, I think depending on the type of customer, the different vertical that the customer was in, really depended on the type of access that they would provide for guest users. And really, coming into it, if we had some sort of access, the limited access would be that, maybe I provide some virtual desktop access. I'm not, whether it be via wireless. And if I did have a wireless environment in my network, that wireless environment was totally disparate, meaning that although, it was within my organization, it had its own network infrastructure, it had its own maybe cable modem or own internet connectivity, and really my access into the environment was the same type of access if I was remote, right, across the internet, whether it be maybe a virtual desktop, Citrix access, via gateways, VPN access, what have you. And that's really the limited type of access or initial adoption that we've seen. Then, the next, I guess, flavor of that was looking at to more consolidate and converge that infrastructure. Maybe not changing everything in a sense, but maybe allowing different flavors of that form of access and converging them. As opposed to having multiple infrastructures, leveraging the different wireless technologies, we're able to put these wireless infrastructures in place and have that infrastructure not only provide back-end corporate access for those devices that we already control, and we're not too concerned about the policies on them, right? Because we issue those devices and all that good stuff. But at the same time, also potentially provide guest access and maybe potential limited access, right? And what I mean by limited access, maybe we have an SSID or a wireless network for corporate, a wireless network for guest, and then maybe a limited wireless network where we're providing maybe access into the back end, a back end DMZ or a back end web server or access server front end, where we can provide limited access to certain data, which was publicly accessible anyway. But really, instead of having those two disparate environments, now we converge those environments to provide a little bit more flexibility. right? And I think the majority of organizations that are out there today probably are more at the basic level, or from what we see, than the limited or the limit layer at this point. But there's still some limit out there, but the majority, I would say, would be at basic. Now, advanced. So this is where we talk about being anywhere, right? Whether I'm, we have the picture of the guy walking on the street, so he has his mobile device, wherever he has his tablet or his phone, and having access to back-end infrastructure, right? So that's whether I'm across a 4G network, whether I'm on a wireless network, whether I'm on a wired network. The reality is we want to have the type of capability where I can have any of my devices, whether I own them or not, provide access into the back-end corporate infrastructure, providing that data we spoke about earlier in the previous slide to our end users to allow them to service our customers or to service their business groups more effectively. So at the end of the day, this type of architecture is kind of where we'll play more, this is like the latest and greatest BYOD, right? So having control of those mobile devices, at the same time having controls of a wired and corporate asset wireless devices, and pretty much bringing that under the same umbrella. Now, from an advanced layer perspective, this is really where we take it to the next level, where we have that unified or next generation workspace. So we're taking all those different modalities from anywhere, anytime, those different types of devices, and we're having our mobile profiles that are able to roam with us, and then we're able to have the intelligence of the network be able to apply policy no matter where we are. So between enhanced and advanced, that's where we're going from a BYOD perspective, and that's where the focus is, the majority of the days that we're going out and speaking with our customers. Now, I wanted to put this high-level slide and just really to kind of show, high-level architecture of kind of what we're talking about. So from a Cisco BYOD solution standpoint, we have across the bottom we have our wired out office access. So if I'm sitting in the office and I have my laptop, how do I access the network securely? Next to that we have our wireless access within the same environment, and then I have my remote access, right? So I have these mobile devices, whether they be my laptop, tablet, smart device, terminating into a Cisco security firewall in this Visio, which in turn will give me access into the back environment. Now, all these different access methods are rolling up, and we're pretty much we're creating the policy or we're defining policy within Cisco's Identity Services Engine. So within the Cisco Identity Services Engine, we have, in a wired environment, we can enforce policy on our access layer with access switches, what have you. We have these little pictures over here, which really stand for the Cisco AnyConnect client, which we can leverage as an 802.1x supplicant to provide identity for each of the devices. We have profiling capabilities for the devices, and that really goes across the wireless and remote access methods as well. So we're providing additional insight into those devices. Now, when we get into smart devices, mobile devices, that's really where this mobile device manager comes into play. So the mobile device manager provides a lot more features and capabilities, right, for the mobile devices, for asset inventory, for managing them, for supporting them, and all that, the basics when we talk about remote wipe, locking them down, what have you. But within the BYOD architecture and Identity Services Engine, we're able to tap in to that mobile device management architecture and then leverage the insight that has into those mobile devices to then provide corporate policy. So for instance, in a wired environment, I can profile, I can do my authentication of my laptops, PCs, what have you. In a wireless, I have the same capability maybe for a laptop. But when we get these mobile devices, I want to be able to, number one, identify them better. And also, since it's not maybe a Windows type of operating system, maybe iOS-based, it may be Android-based, I want to be able to see, did somebody root the device? Did somebody jailbreak a device? Right? I want to be able to say, hey, listen, if somebody did something outside of my corporate policy that I have identified within my policy environment or back-end servers, I want to be able to specify, yep, I have insight. I know that they rooted this device, and now they don't have access into my network because that doesn't coincide to whatever policy I put forth. So really, we're taking our back-end policy where we're defining it, we're throwing that policy or enforcing that policy when a wireless controller, whether it be in a switched infrastructure or whether it be on our remote access firewalls, and then providing a similar policy access or policy enforcement no matter what access modality you're leveraging, whether it be wired, wireless, or remote access. Moving along. This just gives you a more lower level picture, because the other one was kind of, here's ICE and, go for it, to kind of give you a clearer, I guess, understanding of really what other items may be involved. So again, think of this as our remote access over here. Could be wired, 3G, 4G, wireless. We have our remote devices. In this case, they're showing the mobile devices. They need to access the infrastructure, accessing through our secure ASA environment, coming into our back-end core infrastructure, and then we have our Cisco wireless prime infrastructure management, which would be prime infrastructure at this point. Identity services engine, we have that mobile device management component, which is providing additional insight into ICE so that we can leverage the policies, the corporate policies for not only corporate devices but also mobile devices. We have two-factor authentication, certificate server, and we also have our corporate Active Directory, which also would have a play for identifying, single sign-on type of capability and identifying those users. From a wireless perspective, we have our access infrastructure, we have our lightweight architecture, we have our controllers. Drew's going to talk about the latest and greatest around the new wireless architectures that Cisco has to offer around unified access, and how that was more of a tiered architecture as opposed to having everything centralized, which obviously improves a lot of performance from a wireless perspective and allows us to grow into the new standards when we talk about AC, as opposed to 802.11, ABGN. And also we have our our branch office and home office or SOHO type of access methods where maybe we have our traditional, layer 2 switch, a Cisco router, which maybe has an access point, or in a Cisco world, we'll be leveraging something called Flex Connect, which would be centrally managed by the controller, so we can still enforce that policy by leveraging ICE on the back end. And the same would hold true for a SOHO or home office type of environment. So everything, all that policy being centrally managed and deployed across all these different platforms within a Cisco environment. So very powerful type of architecture. What I'm going to offer up to anybody that's on this call definitely would love to come in. If you're interested as an outcome to today's presentation, would love to come in and sit down with you, have a whiteboard session, because everybody's environment's different, and the BYOD architecture, although there's best practice and standard architectures that are put in place, it differs on a per customer basis. So we'd love to come in and have the opportunity to sit with you, understand your environment, understand what your BYOD initiatives are, and then we could come down, put a reference architecture together and say, here's pretty much where you are today. If you're looking to go with these types of BYOD architectures in your environment, here's a layered approach on how you could potentially get there and what components you would need. So with that being said, I am going to pass the ball over to Drew, who's from Cisco, who's going to take us a little bit deeper into different Cisco solutions around BYOD. And like I said earlier, once Drew's done, he's going to be passing it over to Derek. So once again, I appreciate everybody's time and look forward to potentially seeing you in the near future. Take care.
Thank you, Scott. So I'm going to take us down a road of really looking at the IT concerns and things to be concerned about with a new unified access and BYOD architectures. We will go a little bit into architectures, but this presentation should help you understand what you need to be prepared for in the upcoming months and years as it relates to BYOD and these new architectures. Go to this next slide. So here's what we're going to cover quickly today. So we're just going to talk a little bit about trends, where we're going in terms of technology. There has been some significant technology advances in the last couple of years through the standards bodies that are going to impact you in the short term. So we're going to go over that. We're going to talk about concerns that arise because of that. And then we're really going to talk about control, visibility, and predictability, which are three things that impact all of our user base, regardless of vertical or the type of business that you're running. These things on the wireless BYOD side are top of mind across the board. So we're going to talk about how those are handled via our various product sets. We're going to go a little bit into user profiles, understanding what that means and how to configure and manage them. Then we're just going to go through some checklists and walkthroughs, give you a basic understanding of how the different components work and interact with each other. And then we'll also talk a little bit about Cisco innovations, some products in our portfolio, and then our overall leadership in the marketplace. So back when I began in this industry, wireless LAN was really looked at more as just an enabler for some conference rooms, maybe a laptop here or there. It was really just a convenience type of network scenario that customers were looking to roll out. And obviously things have transitioned greatly since the late 90s to where we are now. So with the number of devices that are hitting the marketplace and the predominant number of those devices being wireless, the technologies have changed to accommodate that. Not only the ability to accommodate multiple devices on the network at the same time, but also do so in a secure fashion. So where we are right now, for the most part, I'd say most of our customers have at least began the path towards moving to 802.11n technologies on the wireless side. So those are technologies that enable users to connect to access points up to 450 megabits on our current access points. And there's extremely good performance for clients that traditionally might have suffered as they got further away from access points. Our new rate range capabilities on our access points allow users to connect faster. It allows more users to connect to an access point and gives a better overall reliability. And that's a function of the Cisco access points. It's also a function of 802.11n technology in general. But where we're moving to in the not-so-distant time frame is something called 802.11ac. And 802.11ac is the promise of gigabit wireless and some pretty significant speeds. First wave of gigabit wireless, we're looking at about 1.3 gigabits of throughput. But as we progress, and you'll see on this next slide, we're actually looking to get to that 6.9 gigabit range, which is incredibly significant and a huge boon for not only for the clients but for networks in general. So higher speed, higher throughput, higher capacity, that's where we're headed. You might have noticed within the past week, Apple announced that their new MacBooks will have 802.11ac chipsets in it. Also, the Samsung Galaxies that were just released also have AC chipsets in it. Not only do you get better speeds with AC chipsets, but you also get better battery life. And battery life, obviously, is of huge concern with any mobile device. So not only does AC bring you the higher speeds, it also brings you increased battery life. Now, concerns for IT. There's a lot of concerns along the policy management piece. So if you're going to have all these devices hitting your network at the same time, how do you recognize what's hitting your device or what's hitting your network? And then not only how do you recognize it, how do you control it? How do you make sure that those devices are secure and that you're able to administer the proper policies not only by user but also device type? Maybe, for example, you don't want iPads or tablets on your corporate network. You want to push them out to the guest network, or you want a more secured area for them. How do you go about that? And that's really where the Identity Solutions engine plays. So when you're looking at these concerns right now, like letting the right users and devices on the network and denying devices or allowing devices by device type, those are really things that are the functionality built into the Identity Services engine. Now, in terms of product migration and where we've gone, Identity Services engine is really a culmination of the things that we were doing with Cisco Secure ACS for the longest time in terms of AAA. But on top of that, we built the capability to analyze devices as they hit the network, and then based on those device types, make specific decisions in terms of what they should be allowed to access and where they should be allowed to go. The visibility piece is also extremely important. So, it's one thing to be able to secure your devices. It's another thing to make sure that your devices are connecting to the network properly. If there is an issue, understanding what that issue is and what's causing that issue. For example, am I out of IP addresses? I have a lot of devices hitting my network. Maybe I didn't scope my DHCP scope big enough. So I need to be able to determine that. I need to be able to determine if there's some interference sources potentially in the wireless network that are causing problems for my wireless clients. This is all built into the functionality around what we call Cisco Prime. Cisco Prime, again, is a product that evolved from existing Cisco products. When we acquired Airspace and we really moved towards that controller-based architecture 6 or 7 years ago, they had a product called WCS, the Wireless Control Server, which was the management platform for all their wireless. That had migrated to something called NCS, Network Control Server, that was more enhanced functionality and more enhanced visibility on the wireless side. And that has since moved over to something called Cisco Prime. Cisco Prime takes all the best in terms of management and all the capabilities we have in management on the wireless side and combined wired with that as well. So if you're familiar with Cisco Works and the capabilities of Cisco Works LMS and the things that you can do in terms of switch configuration and monitoring management, we took that, combined it with the wireless piece, and combined it with a lot of our security management platforms as well, and put it all in a single pane of glass. So these concerns that you're looking at right here on this slide in terms of getting visibility into the RF environment and monitoring your LAN and WAN with a single application and troubleshooing. These are all things that are built into the single platform called Cisco Prime. It's a huge benefit for customers because it's big in terms of ROI and cost savings. You no longer have to manage multiple management environments. It's just a single management platform for all your visibility and troubleshooting needs. And then predictability. So we have the policy piece is covered with Identity Services Engine. The visibility piece is covered with Cisco Prime. Predictability, well, that's really built into the network components themselves. As this relates to wireless, what we're talking about here is what we've done in terms of making sure that the wireless networks are the most available and robust wireless networks that we've ever produced. The 802.11n technology lent a lot of capabilities and a lot of scalability to wireless in general, but what Cisco does in terms of bringing that up and stepping that up a notch is second to none in the industry. We engineer our wireless networks from the ground up. We build our own chipsets, we go through our own QA processes, and the net effect is that we're able to accommodate more clients and do better in terms of providing throughput and range than any other vendor in the marketplace for wireless. Combine that with our legacy, long legacy of being able to scale users on the wired side, and then combine the two, having wired and wireless on the same edge network, we're able to do things that nobody else in the industry is able to do, such as things like stateful switchover, sub-second recovery. In the event of a failure of an access point or a failure of a switch, we can make up for that with stateful switchover. The set it and forget it RF management capabilities of our solution, again, are second to none. Once you implement a solution, the wireless access points, they speak to each other, they speak to the controllers, they recognize what's going on in the Wi-Fi network. And Wi-Fi is a network that's constantly changing. It's very dynamic. Things can enter into the network, such as interference sources, that can change the RF profile, the RF landscape. Being able to recognize those changes and dynamically on the fly make adjustments to the wireless network without actual user intervention makes it so that your wireless network is predictable and robust. And that's something that we can do better than anybody else in the industry with our Cisco wireless products. upstream and downstream performance. We took some low-level RF technologies that have been worked on by numerous companies and actually made it so that ours perform in a manner where we're able to do something called beamforming. What beamforming does is it allows our wireless networks to recognize where any client is in the wireless environment and direct the wireless beam to that client on a per packet, per user basis. What that means is the highest throughput and the highest reliability and less coverage holes than any other vendor in the marketplace. Again, something that we've done that's a result of low-level engineering, RF engineering, and our legacy knowledge in the RF space. And there's something, too, that we added, which was fairly recent within the past year. There's something called application visibility and control. This does a lot in terms of predictability. Think about what we were able to do on the wired side for the longest time. We were able to analyze traffic flows, recognize applications with our NBAR technology, network-based application recognition, and then make QoS decisions based on what was hitting that switch. Well, we took that technology and extended it to our access points as well. So now we're able to recognize what kind of devices are connecting to our access points, and not only what kind of devices, what applications are running, and then differentiate within an application whether, for example, we are running a Jabber, Jabber client. We can recognize whether the stream that's going over the access point is a video stream or if it's just a data stream, and then we can prioritize based on that. We can differentiate link traffic from Jabber traffic, and then we can make all sorts of low-level QoS decisions that increase the overall predictability and scalability of the network. That technology that's existed for the longest time in our switches has made its way to wireless. There's a lot for predictability. So those are really the building blocks of the system. What are some best practices around unified access and BYOD that you can implement now? Where we're currently at, there's still a ton of legacy, what we would call 2.4 gigahertz, the legacy BG devices in the network, and even GN devices. 2.4 gigahertz is an extremely crowded spectrum. What you're going to see as time goes by is you're going to see most businesses and most networking companies really try to push their customers to move into that 5 gigahertz space. 802.11n works in both 5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz, but 5 gigahertz is much less crowded frequency with much more available bandwidth. Now, the thing to note about 802.11ac, 802.11ac, the technology that I talked about getting you to those gigabit speeds, is 5 gigahertz only, and it's only backwards compatible with 5 gigahertz 11n. So, again, this is the reason for the migration to those 5 gigahertz cells and doing your site surveys for 5 gigahertz. So, rules of thumb for 5 gigahertz best practices. Usually one access point for every 3,000 to 5,000 square feet is where we would generally push customers. Depending upon your need for pervasive coverage, that could actually go down a little bit because of something called attenuation. So attenuation means the higher you get in frequency, the less distance you can have from the actual source of that frequency. So with 2.4 gigahertz, it's a lower frequency. You're able to move further away from the access point. With 5 gigahertz, you have to be a little bit closer to the access point. It could mean a reduction in the coverage, the overall coverage, but for the most part, what we've been able to do with our Cisco technologies and our access points, it's very close. The coverage on our 5 gigahertz is very close to the coverage on our 2.4 gigahertz. But just keep that in mind when you're doing your site surveys and when you bring a CTG in to do those for you. You really want to scale to that 5 gigahertz and do your site surveys in that fashion. Now let's talk about, too, a little bit about BYOD and policy. So this looks like a very complex slide, and this is only complex in terms of the number of choices that you can make on the policy side. This is where a partner like CTG is absolutely integral. Looking at the type of users you have hitting your network and then the devices that they're bringing in, there's a whole bunch of possible permutations of that, of course. when you start thinking about, okay, what kind of access do you want to give them? Do you want to give them wireless or just wired access? Do you want to limit them to a specific location within a building or a specific time? And then do you want specific policies applied to that user based on device type or just based on the user? This is what takes the longest time. This is what most of our customers struggle with at the beginning when they're trying to implement a BYOD solution, because there's a lot of decision making that needs to take place. But once you decide what makes the most sense for your business, which CTG can help you with, then you can start implementing the policy on our Identity Solutions engine. Now, what that looks like to the user is not nearly as complex, and I'm going to give you a walkthrough example right here. This is on the wireless side. Pass that slide here. So on the wireless side, you might have a user coming in with a personal wireless device. Once that user hits the network for the first time, they're going to get what we call a My Device page, which is just really a one-step provisioning page. The only one time that they have to go through it per device. And on that, they're going to enter their username and their credentials, maybe an AD password or something of that nature. The wireless LAN controller then obviously interacts with the Identity Solutions engine, and then policy decisions are made based on the user, the device type, and the policies that you set in the background. What it appears to be to the user is just simply that device page. All the complex things that happen on the preceding slide, it's all happening in the background. It's invisible to the user. So the user has a consistent and very simple user experience, but complex decisions are being made by the Identity Solutions engine on the back end, to make sure that the proper security policies are applied. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll hop through slides right here real quick. All right. So on the wired side, notice it looks extremely similar to the wireless side, and that's because this is exactly the same experience. The idea is to make it very simple for the user to not have a bunch of complex screens, complex processes that they have to go through when they get onto the wireless network or wired network. Simple user experience, simple and complex technology decisions made on the back end, but done so with the Identity Solutions engine, and user experience remains consistent. On the guest access side, when a guest user hits the network, it can also be a very simple experience as well. This is something, I don't know if you ever visited a Cisco office, we do all the time here at Cisco, where we have this concept of sponsorship. So account sponsorship can happen by anybody who has AD credentials. We can issue a username and password that can limit you to a specific area. It can also limit you to a specific time. But most importantly, it attaches that sponsorship to the AD credentialed user. So in case there is an incident or something that needs to be tracked down, it's trackable through the system. And then finally, this slide right here is really talking about functionality mapped to user profiles. This goes back to the Identity Solutions engine. It also goes back to the policy that you created. This is generally what we see in terms of employee type or guest type, or user type, I should say, whether it's a guest or contractor or employee. Guest users, it's more about Wi-Fi profiling and generally pushing them to some secured portal. Contractor might have additional capabilities based on your company's policy, and an employee obviously would have the most capabilities in terms of Wi-Fi and wired posturing, and then maybe something too like MDM, mobile device management, which is a topic unto itself, but that's really the actual management of devices and doing things like device wipes if necessary, if a device is lost. So here's what you need to think about in terms of timing and checklist and timing. Start thinking about 5 gigahertz now. Also start thinking about IPv4 and v6. The more devices that hit the network, the more we're seeing customers look really seriously at IPv6. IPv6 capabilities are built into our wireless solution now. You can roll out IPv6 if you're ready for it. Some of our larger customers, like our hospitality chains and some cities and large municipalities have already gone down that road. Start thinking about your DHCP and DNS schemas for sure, and then what you're going to do in terms of profiling for your different user types. AC is, like I said, it's on the horizon. It's not too far away. We can accommodate 802.11 AC right now in our 3600 series access points. Usually it's the clients that really drive the push towards a new technology. So while we're just starting to see some clients hit now, we probably don't think that we're going to see a ton of AC for another 6 to 12 months, but believe me, it's coming. So just get ready for it now. And then obviously getting your provisioning capabilities lined up with an identity solution. Sooner is better than later. As more devices hit the network, it's easier if you have this done up front, because then you're going to be able to see, you can get that visibility to see what new devices are hitting your network and if you need to adjust your policies. So for the sake of time, I'm going to turn it over to my counterpart, Derek, with Citrix.
Thanks, Drew.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks, everybody. My name's Jericho, and I'm with Citrix. I'm a mobility engineer. I was formerly with Zenprise, who are a device management company that Citrix acquired about 6 months ago, just in January. So I'm just going to talk to you for a couple of minutes and talk about our enterprise mobility management solution, talk about all the different components that Citrix brings to market. So the way that Citrix really sees mobility and securing devices and giving access is kind of 3 layers. So Citrix acquired Zenprise, so they have the device management capabilities. The device management capabilities are very good for corporate-owned devices, corporate liable devices. In a BYOD world, not always are they used, but it's a kind of building block of mobility to make sure you know the current security status of the device. On top of that, we also have a product called ShareFile, which is our data management component. Box and Dropbox and all of those products out there in the market are allowing employee-owned devices to proliferate content throughout the space. So we want to make sure we can secure that content on the devices and provision that out to our users. And then lastly, application management. The whole mobility market is moving towards securing applications rather than securing the entire device. So in a BYOD scenario, most of the time, the employee will not want you to fully manage their device. So we want to be able to deliver secure apps to the device, so it's encrypted and all the contents are containerized. But in the case of the device is jailbroken or rooted, so we want to be able to remove that content instantly without having any adverse effect on the end user's device. So what does Citrix bring to bear? We have a product suite called Zen Mobile. Zen Mobile is based upon, you have Zenprise at the bottom for the device management, so you can build device-level policies, secure it, encrypt it, provision active sync, VPN, Wi-Fi, Cisco AnyConnect, push apps, remotely wipe the device or selectively wipe the device based upon the device compliance. On top of that, we have ShareFile, which is the follow me data. I can now store my content internally on SIF shares or within my existing SharePoint repository, and I have an app called ShareFile, which allows me to access that within my secure email on my device, whether that be an iPhone or an Android. That's fully secured. On top of that, within the Zen Mobile product stack, we think that there are 3 products you will always need within your environment. So the first is a secure mail client. So many of you are probably aware of the old incumbents in the space who have the containerized mail. We have a mail client, secure mail client, which means you can protect your active sync, not expose it externally, tunnel that traffic through an SSL connection which terminates on an access gateway. So you can get to your mail securely from any device out on the internet. Citrix also has a number of other tools. We have a secure web browser, which comes as part of the suite, allows you to create a micro VPN or an SSL tunnel back to your access gateway and access your intranet when you're actually out on the internet without requiring a full-blown VPN for the device and authenticating across the entire network. It will let you into a specific site or a number of internal applications, but only those trusted ones. And then we have Podio, GoToMeeting, GoToAssist, all kinds of other products which enable the end user experience on the mobility device. On top of that, we have the mobile application management component, which allows us to lock down an individual application and provide multiple different security parameters, such as what SSIDs can they connect to over, Can the application use the camera? Can it use the phone? Can it use SMS? Will the application wipe itself if it's jailbroken? When and where can the actually connect to? So these are all of the kind of apps in the suite. Just to drill that down and put that into the bigger Citrix mobility solution, now we have access on any device, anywhere, at any time. You get the same unified experience across your MacBook or your Windows device or your Apple device or your plethora of Android devices, Symbian devices, the newer Windows devices. So you can get to either your Zen desktop, your Zen app, or any of your native mobile apps. And you can also get into your corporate environment to get to your SharePoint using ShareFile, or to any other Assist repositories to access your content when you're on the go, make edits to it, and send that on in real time. So how does that look in kind of the more logical sphere? We have the device management component that will live in your DMZ, sits behind an access gateway, load balance all of the communication ports, provides our security, some SSL forwarding, also acts as an active sync block. We will use as a reverse proxy, so we can actually kill an active sync connection based upon device compliance. We have the mobile application management component, which provides both native mobile apps, web apps, SaaS apps, and access to any of our internal Zen desktop or Zen app systems. So that supports SSO and SAML, so you're good to go to manage your identities. How does that all play into Cisco? So we integrate into the Cisco ICE platform so that, essentially when the user comes in and tries to connect to the network, the Citrix platform is all built upon web services, so it's all built upon, REST or SOAP calls. So what Cisco does is it essentially sees a new connection, it sees a new Wi-Fi MAC address, it checks its current inventory to see if it's got state about that device, and it knows what the current security state is. It then queries the Zen mobile system, which says the last time this device checked in, we know it wasn't jailbroken, we know that it met the corporate compliance standards for the device posture that we would like to attach to our network. So we send that back to the Identity Services Engine, and then it decides whether it actually wants that device to connect to the corporate network, or maybe it wants that device to connect to a guest Wi-Fi network, or maybe it gives it no access based upon, the device current compliance. Once it authenticates, then that device will actually get all of the policies pushed down from the device management component and also potentially the application management component, because we know the device is compliant and it meets the corporate standards. What are the corporate standards? So these are defined by you. You can see different parameters here. So if they're running forbidden apps, for example, Expedia, if they're running non-suggested apps, or if they're missing required apps, if the device is rooted or jailbroken, depending on platform, if it's revoked by an administrator, or if the AD account is disabled, if the end user removes the app, inactive, non-compliant password. I'm not going to read all these out, but essentially these are the different parameters that you control to say whether you want a device to connect to your network or not. If the device violates any of these parameters, and it could be out of compliance, which is a general catch-all for you to define, you could say, I don't want Android 2.2.1 attached to my network anymore, and you could block all those devices from connecting with integration to Cisco ICE. So why do we think, Citrix has the most mobile-ready solution? I mean, we really play across a number of different areas in the space. We have the mobile device management capabilities, the Zenprise. We have the sandbox secure mail and secure browser, which, plays against the other players in that market. We have the ability to select which networks applications can connect to in real time. And we can push those applications onto preferred networks, or we can deny them access to the corporate network. So we have a lot of the kind of network access control on the actual devices as they come in. And then we have, SSO and SAML federation. So we support, fully authenticating those users against our existing identity providers. And then we also have the other tools in the Citrix tool set, which help to provide a full experience to the end user. So I'm not going to go through this, but you may have seen recently Gartner brought out their Magic Quadrant for the third year in a row. We're in the top right corner. And they also brought out the critical capabilities, and Citrix scored very highly across the space, obviously with all of the extra mobility products that we now bring to market. Last but not least, here's a few reasons why we see, Citrix as being a prime partner for you to really work with in your enterprise mobility, because you probably already have components of our infrastructure already in place, and we can leverage that to really give you a full unified experience on the end point. So for the sake of time, I'm now actually going to pass that back over Thanks for your time. If you have any questions, please send them over.
Appreciate it, Derek. Thank you. To Scott and Drew as well. I think we have time for a few questions, so we will open up the session to all participants who want to submit questions to the panel. You can do so via the Q&A dialog box on the right. Understand that any questions that do go unanswered will be addressed individually after the session. So let me see what we have coming in on the Q&A box. Here's a question. Why is the Cisco solution better than any other in securing user-owned or any devices on both wired and wireless infrastructure? I will open that up to the panel.
Sure, I'll take that. The advantage is that it's a single place for policy enforcement. So if you look at what's out there in the marketplace from our competitors, there's numerous solutions where you have to implement policies in different places at for wired and wireless. For Cisco, it's all done in the ISC. Also, the point of enforcement is the edge network. So it can be the wireless access points connecting to the switches, and that's the single enforcement point. With our new architecture, which we didn't really get to cover here, and the convergence of our wireless controllers going directly into our switches, that makes that an even stronger story for us. ISC only has one place where it has to enforce the policy, and that's at the switch itself for both wired and wireless.
Excellent. Thank you, Drew. I think we have time for one more question, so here's the last question. Why is MDM important, and what is the value of its integration?
Hi, it's Derek. I'll take that. So MDM is important because you have an app on the device which gives you a little footprint, so you know about the hardware on the device, and you know about any changes that occur on that device. You don't have to apply policies to it, but actually knowing the current state of the device allows you to say, okay, if the device does become jailbroken, I'm going to disable access to it and remove the applications off it which have my corporate data in there. I mean, if anyone follows the kind of the security world and Black Hat, I mean, you can compromise a secure container if you jailbreak the device. So, we want to know about that so we can remove the corporate content so we're not going to expose it and lose anything via DLP.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Derek. Folks, I think we've just about run out of time, so that will conclude today's session. Again, any unanswered questions will be addressed individually. So I'd like to just say on behalf of CTG, Cisco, and Citrix, we want to thank you for attending today's session, and we look forward to speaking with you in the future. And just a reminder, if you can fill out the survey on your way out, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you all.